So today we're going to talk about Web1, Web2, and Web3, um, and the differences between them, the problems that they have, and then how Web3 is crushing all and solving all those problems.
Yeah, that's a bit optimistic, but okay.
I mean, it's early stages,
Yeah,
but
early
we're
stages
getting there.
still. I think like with any new technology, the initial stages is figuring out how it works, and then like through time it gets better. It's not like solving all of the problems right from the get go.
Yeah,
Mm.
kind of like the dot-com
Yeah,
bubble,
correct,
but like the
correct,
companies that came after that were quality.
exactly. Okay, so Web 1. Web 1 is the read of internet. So that's pretty much like information was made available to you on the internet, sort of like an online Wikipedia, but there was you couldn't upload anything and you couldn't really interact with the data.
So it's
Um,
very static. You could
yeah,
just read, basically,
correct,
no
correct. You
right
could just read it.
functionality.
So that was the late 1900s, I think, up to like 2001, 2002, somewhere there.
So that's like just a Google search. You can search something and
You can search in
read
Google,
and not
information
do anything.
comes, but nothing else you can do with
Okay.
that. Yeah,
So very easy.
correct. Then next is Web 2. So that is the read and write internet. Um, so that's where you can also interact with the internet. So you can, for example, like Instagram, Facebook, they all fall in this category. So you can upload your own information. You can message people. You can also just receive data from centralized places. So yeah, it kind of includes all of that.
So with Web2, kind of like social media, let's use that as an example. Instagram, you create the content. So they provide the platform and then users actually add content to entertain other people. So whereas Web1, you would have to provide everything. Now it's kind of you provide the platform and essentially
Or
users.
both.
Yeah. But this is the difference, right? That users also contribute to it.
Correct, correct. So people can add their own information.
Yeah.
And I guess interact with it.
Okay.
Cool. That brings us to Web 3, the decentralized internet. Okay, so what do you make of it?
So Web3 to me is the main points is decentralization, interoperability, and transparency. I think that's the main differences between Web2. And it's not like one thing defines Web3. There's a lot of things that define it. But those three for me would be like the most important.
Yeah. Okay, so decentralization, transparency, big ones, yeah.
So should we approach this in, let's see what the limitations of Web2 are for each of those?
Yeah,
And
that probably
then,
makes sense. Then like how Web 3, because I mean, I guess Web 3 is designed to fix problems that Web 2 has.
Yeah.
So let's go through it. Okay, so problem number 1, Web 2.
Okay, so centralization. Web 2, kind of Facebook, now Meta, they have all your information on a centralized server. So they've got servers, everything is there, and they decide what happens to it. Now, when you have a Facebook account, you think, okay, it's free. But they've got all your information there and they sell it to advertisers. If, for instance, let's say you make a pro, like in Canada, for instance, if you made a pro truck strike post or something, they would sell that to the Canadian government, and the Canadian government used that to identify the individuals, and then went as far as
like
to
for real, this
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
and then they block their bank accounts. So it's kind of
Serious?
like
This happened?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
that actually happened. So
Okay.
they found out who was in the truck strike, and they blocked their bank accounts and kind of took them away from kind of society and from access to
wow.
important stuff.
And I think the interesting thing there is you also say like, okay, Facebook, Meta, but like there are other companies that have data, but they pay to store it with Meta, right? Like, or like Amazon Web Services, right? Like, so even though it might not be Facebook that you're using, the data is still with Facebook at the end of the day. So yeah, okay. So there's only a few players there, I presume.
Yeah, and it's not encrypted data, so they kind of have access to it.
And also none of it is open source as well. So like none of the code of what they do with it or how they process it is in any way available to us.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the big things about Web3 is very pro everything open source.
Yeah.
So not pro, it's actually by design, it's just like that.
So how Web3 kind of addresses this is, I don't know if you've heard of the project called Filecoin. So it's actually a very cool project. So what it is, it's a blockchain project that allows users to rent out the extra storage space that they have, right?
Okay.
So if you've got extra storage space on your hard drive or something, you can rent it out. So what you do is you download the Filecoin software, and then users pay in Filecoin token, which you can exchange for cryptocurrency or USDC and transfer it back to actual fiat currency, and they can store information on a decentralized manner. So everyone who has this Filecoin network downloaded, they will store users' information.
Oh, okay. And that'll obviously take off once a lot of people are
Yeah,
supporting
yeah.
this.
So then it'll, and because you're using cryptographic keys, so in short, you can encrypt your data using your
private key.
private key, right? So you can then encrypt it and then
Then
store it.
Oh, so
Yeah,
even though it's stored on this person's hard drive, they have no way of decoding it to know what it actually is.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I think actually just on that Web2, like the limitation there of the few key players that pretty much run everything and own everything. That's pretty much what happened with Elon Musk and Twitter. He didn't actually buy it for the sake of, like, I watched a few talks of his. He didn't actually buy it for the sake of wanting profitability from it. He really just bought it because he saw that there were too many key players that controlled all the data, and he felt that censorship was a problem. And as like a free society, you need to have freedom of speech, right? And that's what he wanted with Twitter. No censorship. Yeah, just no censorship, and you can speak your mind. There's obviously limitations that I think there are, like certain gruesome things that I don't think should be shown
Yeah,
openly
yeah.
public. But yes, I feel
That's one of those like debatable things, but I think as the ecosystem develops, solutions to that will be found. But yeah, good point on Elon Musk.
All right, so number one was few key players, centralization.
Yeah.
And point two.
Point two is interoperability. So interoperability and the transfer of value. So at the moment with normal Web 2, like if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can't actually transfer value. You can only transfer data essentially. So there's no double accounting. So you can't actually send money through Facebook
Yeah.
unless you kind of link your bank account from the back end and all of that. And also, I think
But that still uses a bank. to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Like it's not being done over the internet. Really, it's still the bank that does it.
I think a good way to actually approach this one is let's look at exchanges, right? So we can use the FTX as an example, but that was a centralized exchange. It has nothing to do with blockchain. It was just a centralized exchange. So users put their money on, well, with FTX, right? So that they can trade on the exchange. Now, FTX had the responsibility of custodying those assets. And they failed to do so, and they ended up spending all that money. Now, users who thought that their assets were safe with FTX as they should have been lost everything because of the centralized issue. Now, with decentralization, you have exchanges like Uniswap. So you've got it's called a hot wallet, like MetaMask. Now, that's interoperable with any Ethereum-based token or any Ethereum virtual machine project. Now, you custody your assets in your wallet. You've got the private and public keys, which basically is like you've got a safe and you've got the key, right? That's yours. And when you want to connect the safe to this exchange, you can do that using your private key. But you're not giving anyone ever your money.
Yeah.
You're just allowing, if you want to say, I want to exchange one Ether for another Ethereum-based token, you just accept that one Ether can come out and something must come in. But no one on the Uniswap exchange holds your assets.
Oh, okay. So you're actually completely actually controlling your money. You
Yeah.
have your money essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the best things. You can basically store your own value because at the moment a bank is holding your money.
Everyone also thinks that they like it's actually hilarious. Like you think your money's in a bank and you think the bank has it stored, but it's not what it is. Like they're just feeding you a number that is available to you. But like if everyone went and drew their money now, the bank wouldn't have the money.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, fractional reserve banking, what your bank account balance is them saying, yes, we actually owe you this amount. So if you've got 100,000 Rand or whatever in your account, it's just their admission that, okay, we owe you this.
Yeah.
The money's not sitting
Yeah,
there.
it's exactly like Silicon Bank, right? Like they did stuff with the money and then everyone wanted their money and it wasn't there.
Yeah, if any bank had a bank run, that would happen, right?
Okay, so point two. Point three.
So point three is one that I think has to develop more for me to kind of like say that it's all that valid. But that's on governance and open source code.
So like DAOs
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, exactly like a DAO. Now the problem with Web2 is you've got algorithms that feed you information. Now, let's say when a presidential campaign is coming up, who knows how one of the government figures is influencing Meta to show a lot of like pro
Yeah,
Republican or yeah, something like
pro-democratic
that.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't see that. So I think that's one of the big problems that it's looking to solve. Um, and there are DAOs that are open source, so you can actually see the code and the algorithm and how it feeds you data.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big issues I have, is that, like, just thinking about social media, your content gets fed on what you feel like you want to look for, right? So, like, if you're a very controversial topic now, but like if you are pro-Palestine, then your social media is going to give you all the pro-Palestine stuff. If you are pro-Israel, then like your social media will give you all the pro-Israel things, and you're not really aware that the social media is showing you what you want to see. You just think this is the information that's out there, and I think that's quite a dangerous thing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so in terms of like looking forward, and with the whole Web3 space developing, what most excites you?
Well, there's a few things, but like what I am really excited about is decentralized finance. I think so, DeFi. I think there's a lot of countries that are victim to their governments. So like, let's say Zimbabwe, Argentina, where they've experienced like hyperinflation, but their currency is what it is. Now people have put their life savings into it, and they kind of rely on their government to act in a way that'll uphold the value. And then hyperinflation happens, and they lose everything, or just poorer countries in general. So I think for them to have some sort of out in some sort of um, global currency that isn't entirely dependent on how their country performs or the corruption that their country does. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I'm excited for
Yeah,
that.
I saw that Argentinians do that a lot. They get their
Mm,
salaries and then they transfer it
straight,
immediately into
straight.
USDT, so like a stable coin or buying actual
Yeah, yeah.
dollars.
Hectic hyperinflation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then as they need it, they transfer it back because if they kept it in the currency, bread would be like three
yeah,
times more
yeah. It's like
expensive in a
things are
week.
doubling in like a week, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm. And
Uh,
yourself? What are you most excited about?
I don't know when last did you try and make a payment cross border?
Um, Zest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is the biggest headache in the world. Firstly, you never know where your money is at. Then there's always pauses and things that happen, and then no one knows anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
actually have that experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then they ask you a bunch of questions about the origins of the money, which is kind of fair, but at the same time, stop asking me so many questions, right? Like, who are you? No,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not even a
Okay.
lot. No, no, but and then fees are a lot, right?
Yeah.
And this is simply to transfer something essentially over the internet, right? Like that's what Web3 is. So I'm most excited about the ability to transfer value anywhere around the world in seconds without anyone being able to stop you.
I do agree with that. I think in the past there was a lot more transactions happening within a country. So when in the time of Web 2, you didn't travel as much and stuff. But now the the world is global, right? You have to make payments to other people. You have friends that you want to send money to that live overseas. Wedding gift to someone moved to the UK, and now it's like a mission.
Mm,
Like with crypto, I think it'll be a lot easier.
yeah.
Definitely.
So that's what I'm excited about.
Cool. I guess we'll have to see how everything unfolds.
Mm.
I'm excited. I think it's